almost. We are now streaming live to YouTube.
Which means anything that anyone speaks on their microphone voice will be heard across the internet.
Right, starting right now. And I'm going to start as soon as I get I'm going to start recording right before you open the meeting. So I'm just going to hit the record button right now. Okay, so now we're recording and we are to Zoom. So whenever you and Paul are ready, as we get to 8 o'clock, we should be all set, Councillor.
Thank you. I'm waiting exactly for 8 o'clock when my computer's time says 8. It's not yet. It's only 7:59. And I would advise all of you to mute your microphones until it is time to take attendance, and after that to speak. Are we ready to go? Good evening, citizens of Waltham. My name is Kathleen McMenim, and I am the Vice President of the Waltham City Council, and as such, by ordinance, I am the chair of the Committee of the Whole Council. Tonight is Tuesday evening after the local holiday of Patriots' Day yesterday. Being the Monday, we have been postponed until Tuesday evening. The time is 8 o'clock and today's date is April 21st, 2020. We have a clerk for the evening, our city auditor, Clerk Paul Santafanti. Clerk Santafanti, good evening.
Good evening, Councillor.
Would you please call the roll of the Council of the Committee of the Whole?
Yes. President Brasco.
Present.
Councillor Darcy.
Present.
Councillor Dunn. Councillor Durkee. Councillor Durkee. Councillor Harris.
Repeat that, please.
Councillor Harris.
Present.
Councillor LaFava.
Present.
Councillor LaFosse.
Present.
Councillor LeBlanc.
Present.
Councillor Mackin. Councillor McLaughlin.
Present.
Councillor O'Brien.
Present.
Councillor Paz.
Present.
Councillor Stanley. Councillor Vidal. Vice President McMenim.
The Vice President is present. Clerk Santafanti, could you tell us how many councilors are present?
Sure. Let me just reread. Councillor Stanley.
Present.
Councillor Vidal. Councillor Mackin. Councillor Mackin.
I see her name here, but she's muted.
Yeah. Councillor Vidal.
Present.
Councillor Mackin. Councillor Dunn. Councillor Mackin.
Clerk Santafanti, I see Councillor Mackin's name on our roster here, but she's muted both in video and in voice, but I do not see Councillor Dunn's name anywhere as present.
There's a new phone number down the lower. Not sure who that
Yeah,
is.
781-974-4971. Can you identify yourself?
It's Councillor Durkee. So I had a very difficult time getting in.
Sure. Councillor Durkee?
Present.
Thank you. There are 14 present, Madam Chair, 1 absent.
Thank you very much. If there's a difficulty for the councillor who's not present, accessing the meeting, perhaps there's a number the council could call to let us know that. Councillor Clerk Vizard, do we have a number that they might call?
They can call my cell phone.
Well, then they should have that cell phone number. Okay, so if there's a problem accessing the technology here, then would the council please call Clerk Vizard's phone number and let him know that. Thank you very much. We have 14 members of the City Council present. We do have a quorum. And as the presider of this meeting, I wish to thank all the Waltham community for being very patient with us as we're all trying to navigate this new technology. And it's very new for most of us. And each week and each meeting, we seem to get a little bit better at it. So thank you very much for your patience and understanding. And so the clerk will call the first matter.
Approval of the minutes of the meeting, March 2nd, 2020.
Do I have a motion for approval of those minutes?
Motion for approval.
Name?
Councillor Brasco.
Sorry, Mr. President. Thank you. President Brasco makes a motion for approval. Only motion. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Council clerk will read the next matter.
Approval of the minutes of the meeting, April 13th, 2020.
Madam Vice President, I'd make a motion for approval. This is Councillor Brasco.
Councilor Brasco, Vice President of the Council, makes a motion for approval on those minutes. All on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. The clerk will read the next matter.
A request from the mayor to confirm the appointment of Catherine D. Laughman as an assistant city solicitor in the law department.
Thank you very much. Ms. Laughman, are you on voice with?
Good evening, I'm here. Are you
Yes,
able to
thank
hear
you.
me?
Excuse me, yes. Can you all hear Ms. Attorney Laughman?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. If I'm not mistaken, Attorney Laughman, I know you are a resident of our city, and I recognize the ward councillor, your ward councillor, Councillor George Darcy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just some bookkeeping matters to the clerk. How long is this appointment for the assistant city solicitor for, and when does it expire?
It expires on January 31st, 2022.
Can you say that date again?
Yes, January 31st,
Yes.
2022.
Good for now. Through you, Madam Chair, to Attorney Laughman, thank you very much for being here this evening. I read your resume and I'm very impressed. You've been a Waltham resident for 12 years. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, it is.
And where did you grow up?
So I was raised in Canada. I grew up in the province of Newfoundland, and then I moved to the United States for college and eventually settled in Massachusetts.
Wonderful. Thank you. And you worked at Copeland and Page, which is now called KP Law, since 2005.
That's correct. Yes,
And you're a shareholder now at KP Law?
I am.
Great. And could you tell us which Massachusetts towns that you've worked with?
KP Law as a law firm represents approximately a third of the municipalities within Massachusetts. I have done work for a number of communities over the 15 years that I have worked there. Currently, my practice involves providing primary land use services and other municipal services to approximately 15 communities right now. And I share that responsibility with other attorneys in my firm, obviously. But a number of those communities are communities that are neighboring to Waltham. I work with the communities of Weston and Lincoln. Some are on the Cape. I work as far in Western Mass as Belchertown, other communities north of the city, including Swampscott, Upton. The list is long, but there's a sampling.
Great. And it says that you are a specialist in land use.
That's correct. In my practice, I do a lot of land use law, although obviously municipal law has there's lots of bleed over into the other areas. So I am certainly familiar and work with communities on other issues other than just land use.
Great. And on your resume, I actually read two of the summaries of the significant litigation, the Barry versus Belchertown, in which you defended the town of Belchertown dealing with development along public versus private ways. And I also read the Timperio versus the town of Weston dealing with variances in zoning controls. And I'm just very impressed, and I think it would be a great match for Waltham. So based upon your knowledge, your vast knowledge of Massachusetts subdivision control law, of A&Rs, public versus private, which is very pertinent to Waltham. It's obvious to me that the city of Waltham, its taxpayers, its residents would benefit greatly from your appointment. Hence, I am making a motion to approve the mayor's appointment of Attorney Laughman for Assistant City Solicitor for a term until January 31st, 2022. And while this will be KP Law's loss, the silver lining is that this will be Waltham's gain. That's my motion, Madam Chair, and I know that there will probably be other speakers.
At some point, I intend to speak, but thank you very much, Ward 3 City Councillor Darcy. So are there other councillors who have questions or comments from Attorney Laughman?
Councilor O'Brien has a question.
I recognize Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Through you to the attorney, I'm just curious, how did you hear about the opportunity in Waltham?
I heard about the opportunity when the job was posted, and I also had spoken with attorneys in the law department who I know professionally who had made me aware that the opening had become available.
Okay. And what would you be focusing on in the department?
Well, I'm certainly willing and able to do whatever legal work is required. Although I have a specialty in land use law, it's certainly not the only area that I've practiced in, and I understand the city is self-insured and has lots of legal needs, and I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and do whatever's required.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Councillor O'Brien. Are there any other councillors with questions for Attorney Laughman?
Councilor LeBlanc,
Councillor Randy LeBlanc, I recognize you.
through you to the attorney. Thank you. I'm excited. Being on the rules and ordinance, sometimes things get busy. We have a backlog, and I read your resume, and it seems very impressive and a great fit. And I'm also happy you're from Canada. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further.
Thank you, Councillor LeBlanc. Are there any other councillors with questions or comments for the applying attorney?
Madam Chair, if there are no further, could I ask
No,
for?
excuse me. Just a minute, please, Councillor Darcy.
No,
If there are no other councillors, I will take the privilege through our council rules and through Robert's rules of being the last to ask questions, after which I will not be able to continue. So if I may, and I'm going to ask the indulgence of the attorney because I'm running the meeting, but at the same time I have I've read your vitae. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, so I have your application and your up on my screen, and I'm going to go through it bit by bit if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Thank you. So I might start at the very end. One of the other specialties that you placed on your application had to do with, just a minute, please, if I can find it. You have a specialty or have been, and this is a whole new area for all of us, in marijuana. Could you explain a little bit about that, please?
I'd be happy to. When the ballot question passed in 2016, there were a lot of legal issues that faced municipalities. As you are aware, a part of the marijuana law gives a substantial amount of control to municipalities with respect to the citing and the negotiation of host community agreements. As a municipal law firm, we had many of our clients that were facing this new uncharted territory. And so at the time, the firm saw fit to create a position for me of being the primary point person at our firm to become familiar with the new marijuana law and advise our clients in that area. So for the last number of years, I have been the primary marijuana specialist at KP Law. I have advised dozens and dozens of communities through the zoning process, through the negotiation of host community agreements, the creation of licensing regulations. I have worked very closely with the Cannabis Control Commission, and I have spoken extensively at a number of continuing legal education seminars and planning events with the CPTC on this topic. So it has occupied a large amount of my time in the last few years, but it's been very rewarding to be on the forefront of these new legal developments.
So that's all very interesting. So have you followed the city of Waltham's participation in the last 2 to 3 years in terms of what we are being asked what we are being asked to regulate, how we're being asked to regulate it in conformity with the state law, and the time frame that we have in order to enact some of the regulations? Have you been following Waltham's participation?
I'm aware that Waltham does not yet have an ordinance. It's my understanding it does not yet have an ordinance for marijuana, and hasn't yet had any businesses apply or open. So that's sort of the extent of my knowledge at this point in time.
So if you were to be confirmed in your appointment next week, would you be able to assist the Rules and Ordinances Committee, which is basically our subcommittee that deals with zoning and, in the committee format, deals with zoning and deals with new laws, new regulations, the adaptation of the law from MGL down to the local level? Would you be able to assist the Rules and Ordinances Committee with that?
I certainly would.
Okay, that's good to hear. So moving up your vitae here, litigation. So you represent municipal clients in zoning, subdivision, and telecommunications litigation, as well as administrative and enforcement matters. So let's go to let's start with the subdivision. As you know, difference between 40A, 40B, and the subdivision control law is very substantial. And in our community, the subdivision application is controlled by the Board of Survey and Planning. Did you have the same format in other communities that you've been involved in, or was it their legislative body that dealt with subdivisions?
In my experience, it's generally the planning board. So I understand it's called the Board of Survey and Planning in Waltham, but it's
Yes.
the same entity statewide generally deals with subdivision control law, in my experience.
And back when the subdivision control law was enacted in 1976, I was on the council when it was became a mass general law, and then the application of that, it became very onerous to the city of Waltham, because prior to that that enactment, we as a community, a very large 13 square mile community, had existing subdivisions that are all over the city. I mean, I could name you 10 right off my fingers here, but they're all over the city, and they, those were approved before 1976, were, many of them don't meet the standards that were enacted from 1976 on. As you know, the quality of street, the quality of sidewalk, the quality of substance and material used for the infrastructure of a subdivision, width of streets, cul-de-sac requirements for safety, firefighting safety vehicles. So we still have that inequity in our city. Some of the subdivisions that have approval not required and are still on the books, which means that anyone who purchases that or decides to develop it has already grandfathered A&R. Do you have any thoughts and ideas on this idea of the disparity in subdivision application standards?
I mean, my legal answer to a question like this is obviously the facts are very important in analyzing what you're able to do in any given situation. So in the absence of specific facts, it's difficult to give an answer. Although
excuse me, attorney, are you basically saying one size does not fit all?
Yes. But that being said, certainly the way that the subdivision law is written, and the way that the rules and regulations are written, and the law that is in existence with respect to prior approved subdivisions, and whether or not they've been built out, and whether they need to be built to current standards. I am familiar with case law in that area, and ways in which communities can work to ensure that subdivisions are built to proper standards and the public safety can be adequately protected.
That's wonderful to hear, because, you know, in the middle of having completed half a subdivision next door to me, the developer went bankrupt and formed another LLC and built another subdivision on the other side of 128 at the same time he was in litigation on the subdivision down below here.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you have some litigation experience with that. Now, in terms of telecommunications litigation, could you sort of elaborate your involvement with what kind of litigation you would have been involved in?
Certainly. My telecommunications litigation involves primarily communities that have denied permits for cell towers to be constructed. And I know that Waltham has had some experience in that area, and that there is some cases that have gone through the federal courts with respect to those types of installations within the city. As you are probably aware, the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996 gives the federal government a great deal of oversight of these types of facilities, and it's very difficult for municipalities to prevail in those types of litigation. But I have been involved in cases of negotiating conditions for telecommunications operations in order to ensure the adequate protection for the communities, and to try and make sure that the town gets the best possible deal and the least offensive or visible structure that can possibly be constructed.
Good, good. Your answers so far are okay with me. I have a lot more to go, though. Let's go to the zoning. So zoning in our city, as you know, or you, I don't know if you do know, we do not have a site plan approval process.
Yes, I was aware of that.
Okay, so, you know, zoning, I've been involved for a long, long time with the application of zoning districts to our city. And the piecemeal, attack on the city by large and small developers has basically changed or forced the change of zoning build out in the city inadvertently. And so when I first moved to the city in 1970, we had many different zones at the time, but one of the zones we did have 2 locations was industrial, and I think at least one, if not both of those locations are no longer on the books. But we've modified our zoning map and modified our zoning code to try and accommodate the best future for the city of Waltham in the incredible amount of intensity of use and growth that the city is forced to deal with on a regular basis. And I mean intensity of use of the land. So we do, to the credit of the mayor, starting with the mayor, and then the support of the city council, we have managed to keep our open space, at least some of it, development free. But it's not as easy as 1, 2, 3. So in zoning, what experiences have you had in other communities in which the competitive nature of just the word zoning, in which the competition that's out there between the best interests of the people who live in the municipality in contrast to the best interest of the people who work in the municipality, and then those who would prey upon the municipality, what experiences have you had in interpreting the zoning to the best interest of the municipality?
Certainly. So one of the things that I spend a lot of time doing is working with the zoning bylaws and zoning ordinances in the communities that they represent. And certainly each community has its own zoning, its own policy. And often the way that those ordinances and bylaws are developed over time, you know, people look to take advantage of loopholes, people look to interpret things certain ways. And one of the jobs that I have is to work on interpreting not only what is existing in the bylaws, but thinking and working with communities in developing new ordinances to address problems or issues that were perhaps unforeseen, that may need attention to prevent things from happening that people didn't foresee happening under laws as they were currently written. So I do have experience both in interpreting and drafting zoning and in defending decisions of boards to deny permits for reasons that that the municipal boards felt were not appropriate to grant permits in various circumstances.
And so you mean with draft negative decisions, say that the Rules and Ordinances Committee would be interested in having?
So I've worked with zoning boards in drafting decisions, for example, denying a special permit, which has a discretionary component to it in cases in which, you know, certain uses were maybe not in the best interest of the neighborhood and could reasonably be denied. I've also worked with ordinance committees or zoning or planning boards in drafting and revising zoning ordinances.
Okay. So let's go up the ladder here. So the next category you list under your legal responsibilities is general municipal. So our municipal bylaws and regulations. So you've provided oral and legal opinions to municipalities on a wide variety of subjects under municipal bylaws and regulations, including open meetings, public records, conflict of interest, town meeting. We don't have to worry about that. Elections law, we do have to worry about that, and constitutional matters, and we do have to worry about that. So I will tell you, when I first came onto the city council, a lot of these vocabulary phrases weren't operative at that time. That's 40 years ago. Little by little, through the Attorney General's office, the Secretary of State's office, the application that came from various municipalities around the Commonwealth regarding, and particularly from the residents in those communities who would clamor and argue and petition for more transparency, more open meetings, more information from the municipality and the elected officials. These phrases have come to exist now. And I can almost tell you that as we move forward, the new technology of the social media, and even tonight, this evening on Zoom, the first time we tried to conduct a meeting, I was getting emails that people couldn't understand what we were saying or doing, and they were not happy. So we went from one format on one platform to another platform, which was Facebook, knowing, unfortunately, that many people are not on Facebook, and I'm one of those people. So there's a whole new discipline that I don't see listed here, but I know is coming, and it's coming quickly. Do you have any experience with the kind of technological circumstances that I'm talking about and how it applies to the our municipality?
I think you're absolutely correct that these are the sorts of issues that municipalities are just beginning to deal with. The ability of municipalities to broadcast meetings and have virtual and remote meetings is something that we've only just started dealing with in the last month since this particular crisis, and already municipalities are learning to adapt and figure out ways, working with the state legislature and the Attorney General's office, and to make these types of things more transparent and available for public consumption. So certainly, I think as an attorney, one of the things that I work very hard to do is be flexible and to learn and adapt, and to try and stay ahead of the law, so that understanding the law, so that you can help the cities and municipalities that I've worked for understand and do things in ways that are publicly transparent.
Good. Okay, moving up the ladder, one more, and then I have one other. So under the land use, and I have a philosophy of land use that I developed many, many years ago, particularly since I lost a seat back in the 70s on a very bad call and vote on a land use issue. And I then understood the importance of understanding land use and what it means to a municipality. So I see here where you have advised, now we don't have town managers or administrators, we do have a mayor. We are the city council. You have advised city council. We have no selectmen. You have advised building commissioners. We do have a superintendent of buildings. You have advised planning directors. We have a planning director. We have a ZBA, and we have a planning board or board of survey and planning. And you have advised those entities in municipalities on complex zoning and land use matters, including ordinance and bylaw interpretation, permitting, appeals, and zoning enforcement. So can you give us any insight? I mean, that's a very large body of legal application to all of those entities, but can you give us any insight to that?
Sure. I have a lot of different stories, a lot of different experiences that speak to some of those things that I've summarized in that list. an average day for me, I could be speaking to a building commissioner about something as simple as a zoning enforcement matter and involving use of residential property for a private business in an improper way. And on the same day, I could be working to develop complex contractual agreements for the operation of an asphalt plant in another municipality. So the types of work that I do have generally stemmed from things that are fairly simple, a building inspector or commissioner picking up the phone and asking how to interpret a section of a bylaw, all the way up to dealing with complex agreements for landfill closures. So it's kind of that and everything in between.
Great answer. My last question, and it's really not a ringer, believe me, but you're the new kid on the block here. And you will be, if you are approved, which I have no doubt you will be, as an assistant city solicitor for the city of Waltham in our law department, how do you expect to get along with your new colleagues?
Well, I have met and interviewed with them, and I think the best way to sum this up is that when I walked out of the first interview there, having spent over an hour speaking with the attorneys there, the first thing that I said to my husband when I called him on the phone was, I think I could really see myself working there. Everybody just seemed so, there was such a congenial and welcoming environment. And I would honestly be honored to be part of that team.
Well, you have answered all of my questions to the best of your ability, and your ability is outstanding. So I am motion that the Ward 3 councillor made for the approval of your appointment to this position. And before we go any further, is the mayor on the line, and does the mayor have anything to say?
I am on the line, and as you look at the attorney's experience in all facets of municipal law, as well as the fact that she has a tremendous work ethic, I think she'll make a great team member in the law department, and to try to get rid of some of the backlog in the land use areas, as well as general litigation and specialized litigation. Excuse me. So I'm happy to recommend her to you. Excuse me.
Take your time,
Okay.
Mayor. Yes, that's great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So I am finished with my questions. Is there anyone else who wishes to ask a question or make a comment? Please let me know. Hearing none, then we have a motion before us made by Councillor Darcy to support the mayor's appointment of Assistant City Solicitor Catherine D. Laughman. Is that how we pronounce your name, Attorney Laughman?
It's actually Lockman, like a key in the lock.
Okay, well, that's good. We all now know that. So I have a motion to approve the appointment of Assistant City Solicitor Catherine D. Lockman to serve as Assistant City Solicitor for the City of Waltham, I think until 2022. On that motion, we need
Roll call, please.
the clerk will call the roll.
President Brasco,
Yes.
Councillor Darcy,
Yes.
Councillor Dunn,
Yes.
Councillor Durkee,
Yes.
Councillor Harris, Councillor Harris,
Yes.
Councillor LaCava,
Yes.
Councillor LaFosse,
Yes.
Councillor LeBlanc,
Yes.
Councillor Mackin,
Yes.
Councillor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Councillor O'Brien,
Yes.
Councillor Paz,
Yes.
Councillor Stanley,
Yes.
Councillor Vidal,
Yes.
Does the chair wish to vote?
The chair wishes to vote and the chair votes yes. So Attorney Laughman, the committee of the whole has approved in committee the appointment of the mayor of yourself to be the assistant city solicitor. We need formally 6 days by our council rules and by charter to allow this some time. And so next Monday, excuse me. Excuse me, please. Next Monday will be the full city council's appointment. The clerk will call the next matter.
Chair, for the approval of the funding allotment of $103,477 from cable access funds to be paid to the Waltham Community Access Corporation, WCAC, the studio equipment, field equipment, in the last phase of the studio lighting equipment.
Madam Chair and Clerk Santafanti, I did admit a couple people at the beginning of that testimony, so I don't know if you need to read them for attendance, but I believe it was Councillor Mackin and Councillor Dunn.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I admitted Councillor Dunn and Councillor Mackin while you were talking, so I don't know if the clerk needs to read them for attendance purposes or anything, Madam Chair.
So just a minute. Were they not in on the vote that we just took for the attorney?
They were.
They were in on the vote, but you never, you didn't read them for attend. You know how in the room when they walk in, you read the attendance roll?
So well, if they weren't on the attendance, how could they have voted for the attorney? I'm sorry, when did you admit them? Clerk Vizard, when did you admit them into the room?
Probably about 8:05 and 8:10. So they would have missed the first roll call of attendance. They are recorded on the roll call you just took, but they're probably not recorded on Paul's attendance sheet.
So the clerk of the committee will call the two councils, please.
Councillor Dunn,
Present.
Councillor Mackin.
Present.
Thank you.
So the clerk will tell me, what do we have for a total number of councils present in this committee?
15, all 15 present, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And you've just called the matter on the request by the WCAC board, excuse me, the amount of money. So let me see if we have the people here that we need to have. Let's start with the Executive Director, Maria Sheehan. Are you on?
I am.
Thank you. And the Chairman of the Board of Directors, who is Justin Barrett.
I'm on.
And I think you've brought with you one of your participants.
Dana Mattson. He's here for
Dana
10
Mattson,
minutes.
I'm here.
Okay. Thank you very much. So you're all on board regarding this request. Are there questions or comments regarding the request from councilors? Hearing
Motion for
none, then,
approval.
I'm sorry,
Councilor
Who made that
Brasco make the
motion?
motion for approval.
who made the motion?
Brasco, Councilor Brasco.
Councilor Brasco made the motion for approval of the money. On that motion, is there any discussion? The clerk will call the roll.
President Brasco,
Yes.
Councillor Darcy,
Yes.
Councillor Dunn,
Yes.
Councillor Durkee,
Yes.
Councillor Harris,
Yes.
Councillor LaCava,
Yes.
Councillor LaFosse,
Yes.
Councillor LeBlanc,
Yes.
Councillor Mackin,
Yes.
Councillor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Councillor O'Brien,
Yes.
Councillor Paz,
Yes.
Councillor Stanley,
Yes.
Councillor Vidal,
Yes.
14 in favor, Madam Chair.
Clerk will call the chair.
Vice President McMenim.
Yes,
All
clerk will
15
give
in
us the
favor.
tally.
All 15 councils in favor.
By your action, you have confirmed the request of WCAC for the amount of money they need to improve the studio. Are there any matters any council wishes to take from the table? And I know this is a very difficult venue to do that. And if there are no matters, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Who made that motion?
This is Councillor Vidal talking.
Councillor Vidal made the motion to adjourn, and once we adjourn, then I think after we take a few minutes break, then we will begin the Finance Committee with Councillor LaCava. So on the motion to adjourn, do we have to take a roll call for that?
Prior to adjournment, was there an
Prior
announcement?
to adjournment, Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you. Was there an announcement on the time frame for the Rules and Ordinance meeting tomorrow?
There was not, Councilor LeBlanc. Thank you. Madam Vice President, just want
Councillor
to,
McLaughlin, I recognize you.
thank you, Madam Vice President. We are meeting tomorrow, Wednesday at 7 PM. The email that went out had a Scrivener's error on it that said 2 PM. We were obviously not meeting in the afternoon. We're going to meet at 7 PM tomorrow night on a remote meeting. Thank you, Madam Vice President.
You're more than welcome. Clerk Vizard, can any member of the city council hook into that meeting tomorrow night?
Yes, yeah, you all have the login information in the
All right.
email I sent today, as well as the one I sent Thursday.
That's good. Very good. Thank you. Now, Councilor Vidal made a motion to adjourn. On that motion, do we have to take a roll call? Would somebody in authority out there tell me yes or no?
No.
I think we should take it just, you know why? Because we're doing this by Zoom. So the clerk will call the roll on adjournment, please.
President Brasco,
No. Yes, of course.
Councilor Darcy,
Yes.
Paul just froze.
Yes.
You're back, Paul. Go ahead.
Councilor Durkee,
Yes.
Councilor Dunn,
Yes.
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Councilor LaCava,
Yes.
Councilor LaFosse,
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc,
Yes.
Councilor Mackin,
Yes.
Councilor McLaughlin,
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien,
Yes.
Councilor Paz,
Yes.
Councilor Stanley,
Yes.
Councilor Vidal,
Yes.
The clerk will call me.
Vice President McMenim.
Yes. By your action, you have adjourned the Waltham City Council Committee of the Whole at 8:47 PM on Monday evening. Good evening, and everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.
Finance Committee, please stay on the line. We will give it a minute and get rolling.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to take down the stream or pause the recording. I'm gonna run straight through if that's okay.
I think that's perfectly fine. I think I see Daniel Coyne here. So 1, 2, 3. If we're ready to go, I believe all the finance members are still here. If Clerk Sanafani's ready, I would
Yes.
at 8:47, I call the Finance Committee meeting of the City Council to order. We are being broadcast live on YouTube and recording this video. And would the clerk please call the roll?
Sure. Councilor LaFosse,
Present.
Councilor Mackin,
Present.
Councilor McMenim,
Sorry. Present?
Councilor Vidal,
Present.
Chairman LaCava.
Present. First item, first matter is the approval of the minutes for the meeting from March 2nd, 2020.
I'll make a motion for,
Councilor McMenim makes a motion for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. We are approved. Second item is the acceptance of various memorabilia items from Kathleen B. McMenim for the City Hall Museum Room.
Make the
Council-
motion for approval.
Madam Vice President.
Yeah, on the motion, so just a little bit of technicality. So any new items that come into the council from last week should be first on the docket. But we might as well get rid of this one and not have it linger there. Let me just explain that the items, I think they're listed on the back of the, do you have the back of the, perhaps the clerk could read the items that I'm donating to the museum that is in the basement of Waltham Hall. I think they'll fit in pretty well with the things that are already, the artifacts that are already located there. They're small, but they span about 15, 20 years of celebrations in the city. And if the clerk would read what they are, please.
Sure. One tall beer mug from the 100th anniversary celebration of the Waltham Chamber of Commerce, 1917 through 2017. One long stem wine glass celebrating the bicentennial of the Francis Cabot Lowell Mill, 200 years. One coffee mug celebrating the grand reopening of the McDonald's Waltham, December of 91. One coffee mug celebrating 125 years of the Piety Corner Club, 1886 through 2011. One copper coin commemorating the 40th anniversary of the John M. Sullivan VFW post, 10334 from 1974 through 2014. One champagne flute celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Waltham Historical Society, 1913 through 2013. And one large wine glass commemorating the 75th anniversary of the Waltham Lions Club, established 1939 to 2014, program included.
So this is my contribution to the city instead of having a yard sale. And much more memorabilia in this house to be able to turn over to the city, because each of those pieces of memorabilia represent a wonderful organization in the city over the years. The organizations that have made Waltham a wonderful place to live, work, and enjoy. And so I want people to know that the history of our city is rich in so many cultural ways, along with its history, and along with the people who've lived here. So I would ask the committee to, I think you've already made the motion for approval, to accept those artifacts that will go downstairs in the Waltham City Hall Museum.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Madam Vice President, would you like a thank you card?
I would not. Oh, yes, actually, I would for my files.
Of course.
Thank
we
you.
want to make
You know
sure.
what, not for me, but I have when I finish and I donate what I'm going to donate to the Waltham Historical Society, they're going to have a treasure trove of history. So yes, I would like one just for the record.
I believe our clerk will make sure that happens.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, I apologize. I've never read the agenda like I have been tonight. If you'd like me to pass that off to you.
You're doing a great job.
All right, I'll keep going.
I gotta put mine on mute. Oh, God.
Again, we'll move to the appropriation of $169,921.50 from unreserved fund balance to IT department to replace 150 Dell Microsoft Windows 7 desktop units with 150 Dell Microsoft Windows 10 desktop units. I believe.
Could I put my hand up, please?
Yes, I believe we have Mr. Donald O'Coin of the IT department on the line.
Yes, before he speaks, I want to put up my hand.
Mm-hmm. We
I'm
got
going
that.
to hear what he has to say, but I immediately, the only question I want him to answer for me is, These are not Windows, just, I want to know, they're not Windows 7, they're Windows 10 Dell computers, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm going to make a motion for approval. I'm going to comment that I own one of these. I bought one of these 2 years ago. I have one that I paid for myself. It is a magnificent machine. And all of the items that were listed that he sent us on the back of the application are very prevalent in my machine. That's what I'm on tonight. And I've had many other computers for 30 years in my possession. This is about the best I have ever had for a number of reasons. And I'm not doing an ad for Dell, but I can give you advantages to this computer and the adaptation of the qualities inside of it to my printer here, to my scanner. I've spent 2 years scanning with this machine. It's got 2 terabytes of memory. So it's got 4 other computers on it because I had 4 computers die that I had to have the hard drives wiped and put on here. It's a magnificent machine. So I have no problem making the motion for approval, and I'd like to hear from Mr. O'Coin.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Mr. O'Coin, the floor is yours.
Okay, so these were part of a long-term strategy with the mayor, part of her capital budget. And we have we have about 150 Windows 7 machines remaining, which we're going to organize, distribute them to our employees at home, have them configured. They've been working from home since the event started. So we have a good plan in place. They can pick them up at the door, bring them home, configure them, and then we'll wait for either the mayor's permission to go into the buildings and replace the machines as soon as we get them and can handle them, or wait till employees are back, and then we will quickly distribute them out to desktops.
Thank you very much. On
Mr.
the
Chair,
motion,
I do have a few questions.
Councillor
when you're ready to
Mackin,
recognize.
I am ready. I was coming to you next. You are recognized.
Great, thank you. So a couple of these are oversight questions, and a couple of them are a little more specific about what we're getting for the money here. And I want to start with the, so I am looking at page 3, which is the 5th sheet of the packet that we were sent, where it says that there's an 8X DVD 9.5 millimeter optical disc drive, and I would like to know what the business case is for having optical drives in 2020 and forward.
Well, those drives are standard with that particular form factor model. They are used for some storage in small applications throughout the city, but there's not a huge need for them, but they are part of the configuration, standard configuration.
Okay, so there's not an option to save money by forgoing those optical drives?
I can certainly ask that, but I wouldn't expect some. And
okay,
if I may, well, I'll wait till the end, but go ahead.
Okay, and then the CyberLink software, is that coming bundled with the disk drive, or are we paying for that separately?
You broke up a little bit. What was the question?
My apologies. Right below the optical disk drive line, it says there's the CyberLink software for Windows 10 without media. Is that software bundled as part of the standard build, or are we paying extra on top of it?
That's bundled as well.
Okay, thank you. And then the Dell encryption personal 1 year, the endpoint security, I think in light of our audit, that's a great thing to have included, but can you just high level explain what that's doing for us so that we all have the same information?
You on the 4th page now?
Yes, the very top of the 4th page.
Yeah, that again comes with its standard. That was not an option on the configuration that came with them. They give it to you for a year, hoping that you'll see a good need for it and follow up with it. But these machines do have a 3-year parts and labor, extended warranty, and as well as you can see the office, home and business, which
Right,
provides.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that provides benefit because we're able to update our licensing for Microsoft.
Okay, so is there any plan to use this endpoint security encryption program?
No.
Okay. And then lower down on that same page, I'm looking at probably the bottom quarter. There's security, a line for security software, and it says no security software. Are we going to be running some kind of standard security or antivirus program across the network?
We do. We use Norton.
Okay. And is there like an enterprise license we're paying for that separate from these machines?
Yes.
Okay.
We have
thank
it,
you.
and we have an enterprise license that we just pay a maintenance fee. At this point, we've already purchased it, and
Okay.
we have a line item and a fixed expense each year for that.
Okay. Thank you. And then what's the expected lifespan of these computers?
Well, it depends on who you speak with. The average age of the ones that we're replacing are 8 to 9 years old, and they're
Oh,
the
wow.
final ones. Yeah.
Okay. And then going forward, what would you like the replacement life cycle to be for computers in the city?
Well, that's a good question and a complicated answer. To give you an idea how we approach desktops, we rate them in 2 different specific categories: for reliability and then performance. And if you notice, these are actually a very good buy with Dell at the moment. And I would have thought someone would have brought it up, but they're i5s, they're not i7s. Now we're on a next generation, a first generation of i7s. We actually specifically asked for the i5s because we can get a deal on the extra inventory that Dell has in its manufacturing plant. Our plan going forward, again, is always we rate computers based on reliability, and then we rate them based on performance. So for example, a 911 dispatcher, we replace them much more often. They need to be reliable, but they don't necessarily need the performance. An engineer working with CAD or other, CPU or memory intensive applications, they really require a bigger performance or a better performing machine. So it's all based on that, and quite frankly, what the capital budget allows for. I mean, I'd like to see them on lease, quite frankly, but that's not something that the city has historically done.
Okay. I may have some questions in the future when we get to capital budget, but that's everything I had on this request, and I will vote in favor. And I appreciate that you are putting a plan together to work on this even during this pandemic, and I sincerely hope that you and your family and your employees will all stay safe and be careful while you're accomplishing this for us.
Thank you. And you also. I'm surprised you didn't pick up on George Washington here behind me.
Councillor McMenim and I have questions.
Councillor McMenim, second time around.
So, are we there, Mr. O'Coin, again? So, the Windows 10, so let me just go through this again, because I was listening to the previous counselor who asked some great questions. So these are desktops?
Small form factor desktops, yes.
So are they portable in any way?
They are when we pick them up.
But then when you bring them to each of the locations, they will be permanent on the desk. What did I miss there when I heard you say you were going to bring them to the homes of people?
Our employees, the department employees,
Yes.
they can each utilize this unique working situation that we're all under. And they'll come curbside, pick up 4 or 5 machines, take them home, configure them, and then bring them in. Back in, and then for distribution to the desktops. They're not laptops, if that's what you were asking about.
No, I
portability.
know they're larger. Of course, they're large. But however, as I was looking at what the council was asking, your operating system and then the memory and the hard drive, I got down to, so they do have what I bought with mine, and I heard what the license is separate for Norton. Is Norton for only the software?
Norton is the antivirus and desktop security software.
For
that we
software.
use.
Yeah. So for the hardware, 3 years hardware service with on-site in-home service. Let me tell you, I've used mine 3 times already. I was at my camp in Maine last year, and my screen had a hairline fracture down the middle of it. They sent a repair person, Dell compliant, out of Portland at no expense to me, to the camp. He worked on it, fixed it with his parts. Actually, he didn't have the part when he saw what he had to do. He said to me, I'll order the part, it'll come to my office, I'll come back up tomorrow and I will fix this. This was at no expense to me, it was under the insurance. Dell has a great program with their insurance. And that's what sold me on it when I bought this at the Micro Center a couple of years ago. So I assume that cost, the 3-year hardware service, is built into what you're asking us for?
For 3 years, correct.
Right. And then you've got Norton on the other end for the software that's already in existence in the license?
Norton is a enterprise license that we have on our servers. Once the machines are put on the network, it automatically downloads, through the instruction of the technician, it downloads it onto the desktop once we've received it.
And what's the shelf life on the Norton?
For the life of the machine. I mean, we've paid for a number of licenses for a desktop. So as long as we own the machine, we get daily updates from Norton. And it's quite effective. None of them are completely safe, but it's been very successful for us.
And the counselor asked you a question that the machines that these are replacing, all right, those machines, how long have they been in existence?
8 to 9 years on average.
8 to 9 years. So I've been using computers now for almost 30 years, and my towers that I had actually lasted a lot longer than the laptops I've owned. But my laptops, I've never been able to get between 3 and 5 years. And by the 5th year, either the software is outdated or the hardware can't handle the amount of information I need to put in. So can you even give a projection what you might think that these 150 units might last? 5 years, 6 years?
At a minimum.
At a minimum. Oh, you think?
Based on the last 20-year city practice. If it changes, I mean, I'm all for change and updating them sooner, but the history has proven we keep machines for at least 5 to 6 years, at least. And they, depending upon when you buy the machine, if we had bought a machine with Windows 7 3 years ago, we would have gotten 3 years out of the useful life of the operating system. So there's a lot of factors involved, but for the most part, I can tell you, because I gave the mayor a list of the desktops that we are replacing by department, and they're old.
Well, I'm pleased to hear, and I think the council made a very good point, that there's a plan here, and I'm pleased to hear this plan. Security and cybersecurity is becoming a big issue for us. I will say, excuse me, that the quality as life has gone on in the PC world, excuse me, and I go back to all the way when I had a huge AT&T sitting right where I am right now, and I had Lotus and Unix on that and moved and morphed into the PC world. And then when Windows came on board and the entire platform was just built out for you, you didn't even have to figure out programming. You just went in and did what you had to do. But then when Windows went from its XP to Windows 95, then Windows 7, then when they came out with 8, 8.1 and 8.2, and it took me an hour to figure out how to even log on in the 8.1, because somebody invented charms that you had to swipe in from the right-hand corner of the machine. The best thing they ever did was come out of that mode and come into this Windows 10. It really is a workable platform. So I'm happy with what you're doing here, and I'm happy in the replacement, just like the mayor has replaced the gear for the firefighters and the cars for the police. This is important to do this incrementally so that, you know, in a couple of years, everybody will be on the same page. So I'm all for this, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. On the motion for approval, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. That funding is approved. Mr. O'Coin, thank you again for jumping on the line with us tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And on
Could
to.
excuse me, Mr. President, if I might, Mr. Chair, excuse me, if I.
Oh, you can call Mr. President. That's
Table?
fine. Madam Vice President, you would like
Could I
to take.
Could I take the matter of the outside audit off the table?
Madam Vice President moves to take Council Rule 66, the annual independent audit review from the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. It is before us, Madam Vice President.
So if I might, it's been past practice to, for us, and it's not always been this way for all the years that I've been on the Finance Committee, but for the last several years, the members of the Finance Committee have had an opportunity to have the representatives from the outside audit independent agency come to the Finance Committee and give us their evaluation and analysis of the hard copy booklet that we all have. And so if I might make a motion that the clerk, through you, Mr. Chair, the clerk invite at a date convenient the outside audit to present to the Finance Committee their findings.
You've also heard a sense of the motion. Mr. Clerk, this is something we've done in the past as members of the Finance Committee. Obviously, you are able to reach out to them and do that. So we've all heard a sense of the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We will send that request and hopefully get them in and go over that.
Mr. Chair, if there are no other matters.
We'd like to put that, we make a motion to put that,
may?
yes. Councillor Mackin.
Thank you. I can put this request in writing, but at the same time that we're setting this up, I would like to request from the IT director our written information security policy and our current network password policy in the same format it's provided to municipal employees. And I will send that by email to you and the clerk of the committee so that you have the language.
We all have the sense of that request?
I do.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. And with that, Madam Vice President,
If we have no other matters
moves to
before
put
us.
the matter back on the table.
Oh,
All
I'm
those
sorry.
in
Yes, I
favor?
moved to table the matter. Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. It's back on the table. Madam Vice President.
If there are no other matters before the Finance Committee, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Stay safe, all of you. And I make a motion that at 9:13 that we adjourn the Finance Committee. Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. On the sense of the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We are adjourned at 9:13. Thank you for your help.
Thank you.